Welcome to Not Your Average Mother Runner podcast. My name is Lisa, and this is not just a podcast about running. This is a podcast to empower women through fitness and health and everything in between. Because let's be honest, ladies, this journey could suck if we don't get our shit together. Okay, welcome back to Not Your Average Mother Runner podcast. I am your host, Lisa, and today's guest is Dr. Kori Propst. She is a health psychologist and wellness director at the Diet Doc. She is a human performance and mindset development health psychologist committed to teaching the skills necessary for living life binge-free. I just love that statement. And Kori is one of the many, many reasons I joined the Diet Doc as a clinician. So today we are going to talk about mindset and the psychology behind eating during our weight loss journeys. So welcome, Kori.
Thank you, Lisa. I'm excited to be here. Thank you for asking me to join you.
Well, I thought about you, and I'm so glad you said yes, because if there's anybody that knows a lot about this subject, it's definitely you. But I wanted to tell people and explain how I got to you.
Yes, please. It's a good story. I like this story.
And I know that I've mentioned it in my my welcome episode where I spoke about the Diet Doc, and at the time I was just looking into being getting more education and knowledge about the nutrition piece of living a healthy lifestyle. And I heard your podcast, and I heard you talking, and you guys were speaking like my language. And I'm just like, oh my God, I'm all about this. And then I went onto the website, and then I found out Kori was a therapist, and I'm like, what? Hey, how is that even possible? And then when we talked on the phone and we were talking about therapy, because of my background, you sold me. I was sold.
Awesome.
Honestly.
I remember exactly where I was in my house when we had our conversation. Like, I could point out where on my couch in my front room I was when I spoke with Lisa for the first time. And it was just so natural. Mm-hmm. Like, the conversation flowed, and we were engaged, and it was fun, and you were just so easy to relate to. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my mind was pretty much blown, and I thought to myself, I don't remember health psychology being part of the curriculum when I would have done that one. But nonetheless, I am very grateful for the experience and the journey with being with you and the Diet Doc family. So I'd like for you to talk a little bit about your background story and how you ended up with the Diet Doc.
Yeah, it's it's an interesting one for sure. This was I was in a period in my life where I'd spent 3 years in community mental health post-grad school. And I was working with children and families who were referred to us through the court system. And I was doing in-home family therapy called multi-systemic therapy. And I was living in Colorado at the time. And this is the sort of position that it's very high stress. It has a very high burnout rate because it's crisis all the time. And our role as therapists on the MST team was to keep the kids in the home. So we were doing our best we were spending probably 5 to 10 hours with these families per week. Mm-hmm. That's intensive therapy. And helping the caregivers, the parents, whoever was caring for the children, to learn how to balance, really learn how to balance warmth with discipline, and to create a more cohesive, strength-based environment within the home so that they wouldn't be placed outside of the home or thrown in a juvenile detention center. And because we know that they don't thrive in places like that. and inpatient treatment centers. It's kind of just like if an adult goes to a rehab center, they may learn very valuable skills, but they learn those skills within the confines of the treatment center. And then they come home, and guess what happens? They're thrown right back into the same environment, and it's no wonder that they struggle. But so burnout rate in that position was a year. I lasted 3. And in the meantime, I knew that I didn't want to do that for the rest of my life. And I had originally wanted to start a private practice, but I got heavily involved in physical training. And probably within that last year where I was in that position, and I started doing in-home physical training with people on the side, and I was doing personal training in a gym. My bachelor's degree is in exercise physiology, and then my master's was in counseling education. So I wanted to find a way to combine these 2 passions of mine. I mean, they go hand in hand. You're not going to have one without the other, right? So it was during that time where I started my own little wellness business, and was doing in-home coaching, psychological and emotional coaching, while I was doing nutrition coaching and physical training at the same time. And I had that little business for about a year. And then I started getting heavily involved in physique competition. And so I was training myself for these competitions, but doing very well regionally. But then when I started to approach national level competitions, I was finding that the competition was a lot more intense, and I'm placing at the bottom of the pack, and I'm like, it'd probably be good if I found a coach. So there's always more to learn, right? And I had a background in nutrition too, and that was my minor in college, but I wanted a coach. I needed to learn more. And so I did a little Googling, and lo and behold, Dr. Joe Klemczewski's name pops up among a couple of others that were more NPC, IFBB based, because I was in Colorado at the time, and the natural organizations were not prolific like they are now. And so I reached out to 3 different people, Dr. Joe included, and he was the only one that got back to me, and he got back to me immediately. And so now we're in a conversation. So I actually worked with Joe as my coach for probably a year. And then I attended a bodybuilding camp that he had in Indiana, where the Diet Doc first started in Evansville, Indiana. It was kind of like a VIP event, weekend-long camp. And so that's when I got to meet him in person. Long story short, I left that weekend, Lisa, in tears, not wanting to go, vowing that I would be back. And when I got home, I emailed him and I was like, you must hire me. I don't think I'd ever been more sure of anything in my entire life than like, I need to be there doing that, doing these things. And he had actually, when I got home, I had seen that he'd posted something about potentially hiring someone in the near future to help with the Diet Doc business. And that's when I said, I'm your person. I can be there within a few months, and here's what I will be doing for you. And so, we talked. I flew back out there within a couple months, I think it was, and we did our, the interview, song and dance, and talked about what my role would be in the company. So he brought me on as the wellness director, and I started running the general population nutrition program. I brought in the mental edge component and that program, and it's just evolved from there. That was in 2008. Yeah.
Wow. And here we are now.
And here we are today.
So I know when people think about, when I say the name, the Diet Doc, I know people, the word diet, there are a lot of people don't like that word. could you explain more about what the diet doc is about?
Hmm. Hmm. The diet doc it's really evolved. It
Mhm.
really has over the last 12 years since I've been on board. But what we do primarily, Lisa, is we coach coaches. That's what we do. It's what we do best. And we have the world's most credible nutrition coaching platform for health and fitness entrepreneurs. Uh, so like you came on board, you wanted to be mentored.
Mhm.
You wanted to learn about nutrition. You wanted to learn how to coach people
Mhm.
with their nutrition and their diets. We all have a diet.
Right.
That's how we eat. That's nutrition.
Right.
Of course, there are the typical diets that we go on or go off, and that is not what we represent
Mhm.
at the diet doc. But what we're doing is we're mentoring coaches into clinical expertise, and we teach them how to navigate the really treacherous waters of business development. We're helping you develop your business, and then we teach you how to support your clients
Mhm.
in this nutritional process, and how to create a process that's going to help them develop, not just as people who eat, but as human beings.
Right.
It's really important to us that we make the process whole and holistic for whoever comes on board. So the other piece of that is we really provide very comprehensive nutritional programming
Mhm.
that, I like to say it this way, it breaks down the barriers to traditional dieting and these very weight imperative paradigms, because we're more helping clients explore the ways in which their bodies are for them.
Mhm.
Typical diets don't do that. It becomes a project on how can I manipulate my body, and how can I work on it, almost like it's this thing. It's like a desk that I'm going to carve out of this wood. Like,
Right.
what is that?
Right. Right.
So it's kind of, I like to imagine it as this kind of radical process, that because we live in a culture that demonizes, that
Mhm.
moralizes, and that shames people based on their size and their weight and their appearance. So we're really helping clients to redefine what health means to
Yes.
them, not
Yes.
to this external world outside of us, because culture has a lot of rules and ideas and beliefs about how we should look, what we should weigh, the amount of size that we take up in this world. And uh, we're helping people to relearn and understand their individual needs.
I love that. And it's funny that, well, not funny, but it's interesting that you just said that, because it takes me to the next place that I wanted to discuss. So recently, and depending on when this episode airs, recently I posted something on my Instagram page, and it wasn't so much about a transformation story. It really wasn't to say, hey, look how I looked before and look at how I look now. And it's more about how just going a couple steps back. The post was about how I was with a coworker, and the coworker was telling me how they were talking about me, and he referred me as being small. And I thought, who is he talking about? I'm not small. What is he talking about? And in that moment, I said, whoa, I still got work to do. Like, mentally, emotionally, I still have work. And the point of the post was to say that no matter what we look like on the outside and how we work hard to look a certain way, we still need to work what's inside, because if the inside is not working, we're still going to be stuck in that place where we don't feel great about ourselves and we don't think of ourselves in a positive way. And with that being said, I was getting hey, you look great. Oh my God, you look amazing. I was like, oh my God, that wasn't the point of this post. And then you posted about the word small. and why are we as women defined that is how we should be looking at? And that actually led me to another place, because that's something that I never thought I'd have to deal with. My 9-year-old talking about small. She's
Mm.
really tall. She's the tallest one of the tallest in her class. And I was tall for my age at that time as well. And she came to me and says, I don't like it when people say I'm big. And I said, well, what does that mean to you? When someone says big, what are you thinking? And she said, fat. And I
Mm.
said, oh, Bella. And she goes, why can't they say small? So, of course, I'm going to talk about this in another episode, because, knowing, my therapy mind, I was like, okay, how do I handle this? And then I reached out to my own therapist. I said, okay, how do I say this? This is a really critical moment. But I'm certainly going to talk about it in another episode, and I don't want to go too much deep into it, but that is exactly my concern is we validate ourselves with that word. I was validating myself with that word. Even when
Yeah.
he said to me small, of course it was, oh, not me. But then I'm thinking, oh, but that's
Oh,
what I wanted. Wow,
that's so nice.
that's
That's
nice.
complimentary, right? That,
Right.
yeah. Oh, felt so good. And then like
Exactly.
when I posted, I noticed, because I read your post, and then I'm like, everyone's commenting on her body. I mean, there were body photos, but if you read the post, you're like, that's not the meaning.
No.
And I was just like, it makes me really sad. It
Yeah.
makes me sad, and it makes me angry
Yeah.
that this is the state of our culture, that small is what we're all looking to be, especially as women. I was thinking about even like product names, like cigarettes, Virginia Slims. There's more than just that one, but they all have smallness and slenderness in their names.
Right.
And of course, what images are used for marketing? Very thin, willowy women that are frail, they're tiny. And I'll speak for myself, but I've talked to a lot of other clinicians who this is very prominent in their work. Most of the women who come to them want to be smaller. They want to take up less space, and
Yeah.
they are desperate for it. When you look at what the culture is promoting, though, and what it's saying is appropriate and what's okay and not okay to look like and be and weigh. And when you have the obesity epidemic, I mean, we do not have an obesity epidemic. We do not. And that is very marginalizing language. We have a situation on our hands where people are being stigmatized by their weight and the size of their bodies. And that causes more health problems. Weight stigma and dieting causes more problems than anything else. Yeah. You in that position when your daughter said that, Lisa, I don't know what I would have done in that situation. It's more like, okay, help me understand. Like, I could literally hear your gears turning in that moment. Like, what's that like for you? Instead of like shutting her down and being like, no, that's not the truth. No, let her talk.
Exactly.
Let her get, oh, how challenging. Oh my goodness. And
Yes.
we do the same things with our clients. We so want to fix it. We don't want them to feel bad. We want to take away their pain. And yet that pain is so valuable if we go at it in an effective way to help them understand how we as a culture have been indoctrinated. Your daughter, when she came out of your womb, sister, like, she knew how to eat. She knew when she was hungry, she cried, she told you, and
Right.
stopped when she was full, right?
Exactly.
And she didn't have any concerns about her body. It's
Mm-mm.
my body. Like, it allows me to go play and do things with friends. And then it starts happening.
Now that you mentioned this, let's talk about the mindset. You know, when we think about the weight loss program or any program, and I hate saying weight loss program. I like to say weight loss journey because it's a journey. And so talk about the importance of having a certain mindset when you're going into this journey.
There are lots of journeys we can go
I
on
know,
here.
I know. And that's like a loaded
Yeah.
question, but I think that what I'm trying to get at is that everyone comes to me and says, I want to lose weight.
Mhm.
And then I'll be honest with you, the way I handle some of these clients is I often ask them, okay, well, let's talk about what's going on, and you know, why. Let's talk about your history. Let's talk about your background, you know, because I can tell you the ones that are successful, oh, there's a huge difference. The ones that are successful are the ones who understand that it's a journey, understand that, and I'm doing this like a roller coaster, understand there's going to be ups and downs and there is no end goal. And and you know what they say to me? I'm going to learn. And then you have the ones who don't have that kind of mindset and are looking for that end goal. And I often feel like when you see it as a goal, help me out here. What's wrong with seeing it that way?
So I love where you're going with this, and I look at it as a process, and it's a process that never ends. It's an
Mm-hmm.
ongoing learning process about how to be who we are and
Mm-hmm.
understand our bodies and our needs and our desires and our appetites and our hungers, and and our relationship with food and our relationship with our bodies and all of the beliefs that go along with those things and where they came from.
Mm-hmm.
But back to your original question, which is, you know, what is mindset and why is it important, and what type of mindset do we need moving into a journey or a process like this? You know, I look at mindset as the way we dedicate ourselves to the way that we think. And of course, this influences how we feel and the emotions we experience, right? Our thoughts
Mm-hmm.
influence our feelings, and then our feelings will influence how we behave. And
Right.
it's this ongoing cycle. So, you know, most of your listeners and viewers have probably heard of the growth versus fixed mindset. This was a concept first introduced by Carol Dweck out of Stanford University. And someone with a growth mindset looks at and views intelligence and change and learning as malleable. Like, it's not a case of I either know something or I don't, or I'm a master of something or I'm not. It's with effort and persistence and some patience and some courage and all of these other lovely little character strengths sprinkled in,
Mm-hmm.
I can learn, I can grow, and I can become masterful with something. Someone on the other side of the continuum with a fixed mindset um, views intelligence and learning as it's unchangeable. You know, this is just the way things are, and I'm either a success or a failure
Mm-hmm.
at this, and there's not kind of any gray or anything in between. But mindsets, they serve as a platform for, you know, how our energy is going to flow, and they can explain the how do I move into situations, and how do I move into circumstances as they arise, and what energy do I bring to this process?
So it's interesting that you say that because, you know, I think about my own journey, and I used to think like that. Like, I used to think that there was an end goal, and I'm not gonna lie. I had to go through a lot of challenges, a lot of obstacles to finally say, these things that occur are learning lessons. This is my
Mm-hmm.
opportunity to learn. It didn't happen until I was in my 40s, Kori.
Hey, I'm in my 40s, Lisa. It seems that like the 40s is a really important decade. I'm learning more now than I feel like I've ever learned before. And it feels hard. It feels like I'm digging out from underneath like years of stuff piled on top of me.
Yes. Yes, it's
Uh-huh.
crazy. And
Yeah.
it's like, I mean, it's like now at this point, I have to, when something happens or something that I'm not happy with, I got to take a step back and say, okay, this is a learning lesson. This is a time to grow. What is it? It's self-reflecting. So, want to ask you, how does someone
Mhm.
change their mindset to that level? And can they? Well, we know we can because I
Oh,
did it, but
yes.
but
Yes, it's completely possible. And it takes practice, right?
Mhm.
Like anything that we're going to change, it takes consistent, persistent, determined, intentional, attentive practice over and over again, repeatedly with feedback. That's a very important piece of it. We need a sounding board. Ideally, we have friends that we value and trust and that have our best interests in mind, and or coaches who can say, I wonder if we could try looking at it this way, or have you ever thought about it from this perspective, or who is just there to listen to you process it yourself, because the process of hearing yourself tell the story and that listening, you're going to be like, did that just come out of my mouth? Like,
Yeah. Yeah. No,
that
that's true.
doesn't feel right coming out of my mouth. Like, it made sense in my head,
Right.
and I was target locked on this way of thinking about it. But saying that, and
Mhm.
then we feel the effect of that story or that narrative in our bodies, and we're like, no, that is no, nope, nope. In terms of like this thing we're chasing, and we're gonna get it. And
Mhm.
when we get it, the world will be right. Body will be right. Like,
Right.
we make things contingent upon the thing. And
Yes.
it's there, and I can see it, and I can taste it, and I can smell it, and just need the thing.
Yeah.
It's like, has anything ever been permanent in this world?
Right.
Nothing's permanent.
Yep.
Like, we want to think that there's permanent weight loss. There can't be permanent weight loss when nothing in our bodies is permanent. We are constantly changing,
Right.
recycling cells. And weight loss isn't like the process of weight loss. Nothing is permanent about that. It's like anyone who has gone through a weight loss process, it's like on the scale, and we may be moving downward progressively, but it looks like this. It's
Mhm.
not
It's not
linear.
linear. Yeah.
It's not linear. And if you read any research, there is no program that will result in permanent weight loss. None.
Mhm.
None. Zero. What percentage of people actually keep all the weight off that they lost? 2 to 5%.
Yeah.
We can't do what we've always done, and we can't look at it as, when I have this thing, and if I could just do that.
Right.
And look at it, the mindset is very black and white, very binary. And that's what traditional diets teach us. I have the answer.
Yeah.
I will make you thin. Like,
Yes.
the black and white plan.
Yes.
Like, do this, you'll get that. That's
Yes.
simple. Simple as
Mhm.
that,
Mhm.
people. And how often does that work?
So, like, if someone's listening, you say this, and they say, so I can just imagine what someone's thinking. You're telling me that there's no plan that, I mean, there's no plan that works, Corey? Are you telling me that there's no plan that works for me to be on this journey, that I'm never gonna be at that point where I'm gonna lose some weight? Is there a program that's gonna work for me? Is it what do I do?
Again, we're looking at it in a very black and white way. So now you're saying there's nothing?
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing that's gonna fix me?
Yes.
And it becomes about being broken or fixed. No, I'm not saying there's nothing. I'm saying that there is a process that each one of us is going to go through, and it's going to look somewhat different for everyone because we're all very unique individuals. And just like you said, Lisa, we have different backgrounds, we have different histories, we have different experiences with food. You know, I work with women who started dieting when they were 5.
Mm.
I work with women who were sexually abused when they were 3. You don't think those are going to have a major impact on how they view their bodies and how they view food and their relationships with their bodies and food and eating? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
You know, and so like I said, no, there is not one plan that is going to get anyone to that specific place where we feel fixed, because because we're always changing and we're always growing. It's just like, you know, if we look at it on a microcosmic level, is your hunger the same every day?
Oh, you're asking
Is it,
me?
Lisa?
No, it's not.
Yeah.
It's
Hunger
not.
the same every day?
No, absolutely not. Mm-mm.
No, mine either. Like, there's so many things that affect us on this planet. And I think what is really effective is us moving into a process whereby we are learning to re-inhabit our bodies. So many of us have dieted from such a young age, repeatedly, up and down and up and down, and we lose the weight and we gain it back, and then we go on another diet and we lose the weight and we gain it back, and up and down and up and
Mm-hmm.
down. Like, that's been our lives. And we increasingly think again and again that we're failures, yet we jump on the next diet because there has to be that thing that's going to work. And what's going to work is learning to trust our bodies like we trusted our bodies when we were born, and getting out from underneath all of the beliefs and the lies and the crap that society has spewed upon us, telling us that we have to look and weigh and act a certain way. And because diets hand us a piece of paper and say, this is when you eat, what you eat, how you eat, why you eat. It's all out here. We've lost touch with ourselves.
Right.
And we wonder why nothing works long term.
Yeah.
Is because we don't leave our bodies. When we get to that place, it's not like we can step out, unzip the skin, step out of our bodies and keep following the plan.
Right.
This carries us around until we're dead.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
So understanding like how we feel and the emotions that we're experiencing and what hunger feels like in this body, not what the diet tells us, you know, to eat when you experience hunger at a level 5. Your level 5 is different than my level 5, Lisa.
Yep.
So there is not anything black and white. And that's the mindset that we need to get out of. This is the, wow, okay, Lisa called it a journey. This is a journey. This is a journey in rediscovering me and my needs and what's going to work best for me. And when I look on that Instagram account and I see that that person is eating 2,500 calories a day, and I think I should be eating that same amount too, it's like, no,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
Like that, they have nothing to do with you.
Right.
Your body, completely separate. Again, different histories, different experiences, different relationship with food and the body, different body chemistry, different genetics, all of that stuff. And yet we're trying to all look the same and all eat the same and all have that same good and bad foods list, all operate by the same rules. We just sit for a second and just take that in. It's like, yeah, I can't really deny that. If we really want to do this, we have to figure out what this is. And I really appreciated, Lisa, that you said, you know, when I sit down with a client, I'm learning their story. I'm learning their story about their bodies, what they believe about their bodies, their relationship with their bodies, their relationship with food, their histories. Yeah, from a child all the way up to where they are now. How much do they trust their bodies? Most times when we start working with someone who's been chronically dieting, they don't have any trust in their bodies. They're afraid of their bodies. They've dieted for so long and been in like, you know, repeated spaces of deprivation that they've probably done a lot of binge eating because they've been in a cycle of feast and famine. You know, what does the body do when it experiences a famine? And whether it's psychological or real restriction of food, it's going to drive us to eat. It's going to drive preoccupation with food. And yet dieters take that as lack of willpower and lack of self-regulation. And it's like, no, your body was actually trying to take care of you because it doesn't want you to die.
Right. Yeah, I love everything that you said, and it really goes back to how important it is to acknowledge that it is a journey, and that mindset absolutely 1 gazillion% mindset is
It's paramount. We can't get away from it.
It is so important. But even when you're talking about it, and you know, you talk about it being a journey, I almost think lifestyle. Like I think lifestyle more of the diet. And I know that one of the things that you all talk about is the undiet diet. It's not a diet. It's really a lifestyle, and you gotta encompass everything that goes on in your past, in your current life, how you think. Everything goes into this journey of living a healthy life.
It does. And let me just add, Lisa, that a healthy life is going to look different for everyone too.
Yes.
Health means way different things between people.
Yep.
And so we as coaches need to be really careful that we're not pushing our own health biases onto people.
Right. Because I see that.
And lifestyle. Yeah, we see it all over the place. And I mean, I'm not immune to this. I've been doing this a really long time. I'm not immune to it. I look at my Instagram feed and I am constantly trying to curate it in a more generative, kind, compassionate way, because I will see certain posts, certain photos, and I'll immediately feel this like of shame. And I immediately have thoughts like, I need to not eat lunch, or I need to start dieting, or I need to restrict, or I need to go exercise harder. And what a wake-up call.
Yeah.
Talk about a shift in mindset. It's like we have to learn to notice whether what inputs we're paying attention to, and how much credence we're giving them, and how much energy we're allowing them to suck out of our personal meaningful journey. You know, all of the thoughts that I had, like, you know, what I'm doing without these outside influences works really well for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Makes me feel whole. It makes me feel nourished.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me feel taken care of. And then when I start putting all of these outside pressures onto myself, I can literally feel myself contract. And that emotional deprivation, just thinking like, okay, now I can't eat that anymore. I need to get that out of my life because so-and-so said this is a bad food. Or, you know, because so-and-so said this is how you're going to get rid of your love handles, because love handles are really bad.
Yeah.
Really? Like, I'm 40 now. My body is changing.
Yeah.
Am I going to go? I refuse to go down the road of I need to work harder. I need to eat less. I need to exercise more. It's like I'm gonna burn myself out doing that. That's not self-love and self-care and self-compassion. And that, because I notice my body changing, that doesn't mean I lack any more willpower, doesn't mean that I lack self-regulatory control. It's like, get out of the shame, get out of the blame, and like, can I love my body? And that doesn't mean I wake up in the morning thinking, man, I'm hot. I'm not going to do the body checking things that I did when I was younger. Like, you know, feeling around my stomach and feeling around my butt. And I'm not going to do that anymore. What I'm promising to myself is that I'm not going to be an adversary with this body, because this is the only body I've got. It carries me around in the world and allows me to do the things that are really important to me, and allows me to be with the people who are really important to me, and allows me to do the work that's really important to me. I need to be a friend to this body, not starve it, not criticize it.
It's self-love. And you know, you're saying that, and it's funny. I was just thinking about this the other day about my own body, and I even said to myself, you know, this is I can honestly say I love my body. You know, I love my body. Like, I could really say that, and I have not been able to say that for many years. And I'm thinking, what happened? Oh, that's right, I'm in my 40s. But no, seriously, I just think that there's, besides the fact that I'm in my 40s, self-love. There's more self-love. And like you,
Self-love,
yes,
self-acceptance.
yes, yeah,
I think what a lot of people misunderstand or get wrong is when they hear acceptance, they view it as like resignation, like fine,
yeah,
fine, I'll love my freaking love handles.
right.
Fine, I'll love the 10 pounds that want to stay here that I just can't get off. No, that's not self-acceptance, not at all. Self-acceptance is it's nurturing, it's generative, it's opening, it's wise, it's compassionate. It's not passive like that. It's incredibly active. It's like, no, I'm committing to taking care, not removing care and tightening up and constricting and getting really rigid. No.
Yeah.
Acceptance allows in appreciation. And that's a mental shift. That's a mindset shift, which is, wait a second, I've always viewed my body as something that I need to change and morph and shift and carve and, you know, like a project. How about I make body love and body acceptance and body trust the project?
Yeah.
How could I make that shift and recognize everything that my body does for me, everything I can do in this life as a result of my body, everything my body has given to me, no matter how much I've ridiculed it and criticized it and hurt it and starved it. Like, wow. So, like, holy cow, my body did that.
Yeah.
It did that.
Yeah. Yeah. No.
Holy
Yeah.
cow.
That's and it almost goes to you're answering all the questions I was going to ask you, because the last question I was going to ask you was, what is a piece of advice that you would give a woman about mindfulness of
Oh.
eating, and how would you, if someone, I guess just going back, what would you tell them? But I think you said so much of it already with the self-love and the self-acceptance. And I don't know if you wanted to add any more to that.
I will say, Lisa, that I think mindfulness of eating, even within the culture we live in, begins to take on this very black and white, restrictive, must eat a certain way sort of feel to it again. It lacks the sense of inviting ourselves to be with food in a more wise, skillful, constructive, opening, expansive way. When we look at what is mindfulness? Well, mindfulness in general it's a very attentive, non-judgmental awareness. And that's not what most of us have when we move into an eating experience. Most of us, if we have dieted most of our lives and we've been trying to like carve our bodies into something,
Mm-hmm.
go into each eating experience very judgmentally. Nope, can't eat that. I really feel like this, but nope, that's off limits. Nope, never gonna be able to stop if I do that. And it just becomes this, it gets more rigid and tighter and tighter and tighter and narrower and narrower and narrower. It's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Our eating experiences have lost their joy.
Yeah.
And their sense of pleasure and satisfaction. And they've just moved into brutality so often. And so I think that I would encourage people to really begin to reflect upon the rules that they're exacting upon themselves. Where did those come from? Ask the question, where did they come from? And is the way in which you are moving into eating experiences and food, does it feel spacious and expansive, or is it contracted and rigid and fearful, fear-based, threatening? And I would ask the same about your relationship with your body, and how can we move into a more compassionate stance? And open up the discussion to be less about critique and more about curiosity and compassion.
I love that. My God, I want to ask you so many more questions. I don't think this is going to be the last time I'm going to ask you. There's just so much more to talk about, especially with eating and the mindfulness of eating, but that is definitely a great, I wanted to give the listeners something to take with them. And I think you wrapped it up perfectly, asking the questions, the uncomfortable questions, and really getting into the work, the work, into this journey, because wow, and you even said it's not linear, and I could certainly attest to that. It's up and down, but you know what? For every down, I appreciate it. I'm grateful for it, because it's a learning experience, and a time to reflect, self-reflect, and say, "Whoa," just like I said when I heard the person say small, I thought to myself, "Whoa, I got more work to do." I'm
got
not
more
done.
questions to ask
Yes,
there.
I got more questions to ask. And why was I thinking that way? And how come? I mean, and every time you ask yourself these questions, it opens your mind up, and it's a beautiful thing. And you get to a point where, and actually, I shouldn't say there is no point. You just learn and grow and appreciate the lessons. Um, so I think that was just the perfect thing to say to the listeners. And I know there's a lot of women, especially the women. I mostly have women listeners. Go through these struggles and going through this journey. And I want to thank you so much for giving us this today.
Well, thank you, Lisa. And I think what you're providing is so crucial and so important, because you're giving women a voice, and for them to know that there's a community of other people who feel similarly to them, and that there is support out there, I think is invaluable. So thank you.
Thank you. You almost made me teary-eyed. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I really do. So thank you so much again. Thank you everyone for listening. But where can we find you? I know you said you're on Instagram. So what's your handle on Instagram? And I'll post this on the episodes.
Great. Thank you, Lisa. My Instagram handle is @thedietdoclife.
Okay. And are you anywhere
And I
else?
can be found, I'm on Facebook too, and you can find me by my name, Kori Propst. And then the main Diet Doc LLC website is thedietdoc.com.
Okay, great. All right, thank you. And thanks again for everyone listening. Please make sure to subscribe to iTunes and Spotify and leave your feedback. Thank you so much again, Kori. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye. Thanks, Lisa.